News when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Amy Morris. There it is, your closing bell for this Tuesday on Wall Street, where a fresh wave of selling swept through global equity markets as an escalation in the Middle East collided with mounting anxiety over tech stocks. Indexes pared their losses near the end of the trading day. We do bring you closing numbers here at Bloomberg. The S&P 500 lost 19 points. NASDAQ lost 251 points, but the Dow gained 85 points. The 10-year Treasury yield at 4.52%, the 2-year yield at 4.12%. WTI crude oil now at $88.30 a barrel. Brent crude is now down to $91.60 a barrel. President Trump is blaming Iran for shooting down an American military helicopter, and he says the U.S. must respond. Both crew members on the Apache helicopter were rescued by a Navy drone boat. They're in stable condition. Axios is reporting a U.S. investigation determined an Iranian drone hit the helicopter, but still has not determined if it was intentional. So far, no immediate indication of what action the U.S. may be planning. Bloomberg's Tyler Kendall.
What the U.S. chooses to target in retaliation will tell us a lot about perhaps the trajectory and what sort of escalation we could see.
Bloomberg's Tyler Kendall on Balance of Power. Former acting White House Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney on the peace talks timeline.
I don't think anybody believes the president anymore when he says it's 2 days, it's 3 days, it's 2 weeks, it's 3 weeks. It's just, I think they see what he's doing, which is he's trying to build momentum and build optimism, but they can't take that literally. Keep in mind, you take Donald Trump seriously, but not literally. And I don't think we're 2 or 3 days away from anything.
Former acting White House Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney on Balance of Power. House Speaker Mike Johnson is headed to the White House today. He's meeting with the president to discuss acting Director of National Intelligence Bill Pulte. Democrats warn they will not support an extension of FISA, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, with Pulte at the helm. Republican senators also hope the president will name a new permanent DNI as soon as possible. House Majority Leader Steve Scalise.
Everybody has acknowledged this is a critical tool in America's national security. If somebody wants to play games and say, well, they might not agree with an appointment, you're really going to jeopardize the national security of America over a personality issue. Anybody that would vote against that is putting America's national security at risk.
Pulte, a Trump loyalist, has used his powers as director of the Federal Housing Finance Agency to launch investigations into the mortgages of perceived Trump opponents. Taiwan authorities are considering stricter export controls on AI chip sales to China to align with U.S. measures and address semiconductor smuggling. The proposed controls would restrict sales to all customers in China and enable Taiwan to prosecute AI chip smuggling as a criminal violation. China is laying out its medium-term AI plans. Bloomberg News has learned the government plans to spend $295 billion over the next 5 years building out AI data centers and is leaning on state firms like China Mobile and China Telecom to run them. Bloomberg's Neil Campling reports the spending pales in comparison to what's happening in this country.
In the U.S., the hyperscalers are going to spend over $700 billion this year alone, so far larger than we're talking about in terms of China and their efforts to really build out their own self-reliance so that they don't need to buy as many of the AI chips from NVIDIA and others.
Bloomberg's Neil Campling reports the idea of a nationwide computing network was laid out in China's latest 5-year plan last year. SpaceX's initial public offering has attracted demand from institutional investors for multiple times the available shares. Sources tell Bloomberg the number of orders for shares has increased since Monday. Banks will stop taking orders from institutional investors after the market closes tomorrow. The IPO is set to price June 11th and trade the following day. U.S. home sales surged to the fastest pace this year despite rising mortgage rates and prices. The median sales price of an existing home climbed 1.3% from a year ago to $429,300. Inventory rose slightly from a year ago to $1.5 million. Sales rose in the South, the Northeast, and the Midwest. They were unchanged in the West, and first-time buyers accounted for 35% of sales. Voters in Maine, Nevada, South Carolina, and North Dakota are headed to the polls for primary elections with a lot of the focus on Maine's Senate contest. Graham Plattner, the Democratic challenger, faces a big moment in rebuilding his credibility amid some controversy, despite being expected to win his party's nomination. The primaries will also test President Trump's clout within his own party, especially in South Carolina and Nevada, where he has endorsed some favorite candidates. That's news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Amy Morris, and this is Bloomberg.